Jay-Z, is a lyric in one of his new songs anti-Semitic? Well, as you may know, he released a new album, 444, and it is his first album in 4 years. One of the tracks is called The Story of OJ, and in it, he says, quote, "You wanna know what's more important than throwing away money at a strip club? Credit. You ever wonder why Jewish people own all the property in America? This how they did it." And so some people from the Anti-Defamation League and other sources are saying that this perpetuates a negative stereotype of Jews, as that they own all the land and everything. According to Mordecai Lightstone, he says, so while Jay-Z may have the highest of artistic intentions in the song, his words directly fuel anti-Semitic beliefs about Hasidic Jews. Russell,
I like the there, you really nailed
about
that.
the Hasids. And so Russell Simmons chimed in saying, from music to film, television, fashion, technology, and financial services, the hip hop community, including myself, have partnered with Jews where there were no blacks to partner with. It was blacks and Jews creating new opportunity and new wealth. Jay-Z was celebrating that bond that was built when no other community gave and continues to give us as much support in our fight for liberation in this very white country. He also said that WASPs didn't help at all and did nothing. Thoughts, 5 words or less.
Listen to the song though.
Jews aren't paying for title.
Shaboy, Veizmir. It's a Jewish thing. Yeah, so I didn't even listen to this song because I don't pay for title either.
Yeah, well,
Wait,
we're
guys,
Jewish.
you can find it on YouTube. The song and the video.
I read all the lyrics.
Yeah,
I didn't listen.
read
I
the
didn't know
lyrics.
that, first of all.
Okay, yeah, there's a video that I think is really important to watch if you are wondering about the song and like what it's trying to point out. I would also encourage you to like look at the lyrics and listen to the song and watch the video because it becomes very clear that this was.
Would you like to read the lyrics out loud?
I would not. Were you guys offended? Do you understand the outrage here?
So I mean, it's like saying it's pro-Semitic profiling. Like it's profiling. So it's one of those, it's like a half compliment. You're trying to compliment someone and be like, yo, Jews, you own everything. It's like, black people, it's because your dicks are so big.
Yeah.
And there's a whole line of argument that says like you should stop saying things like black people have huge penises and they're good at sports because it just pigeonholes them as that's the only thing they can do.
Yeah, a lot of the times with these sorts of scenarios, because they're like sort of semi-positive stereotypes, like he's talking about how Jews make really great investments and that's why they like, advance themselves economically and things like that. But a lot of times when you talk about these sorts of stereotypes like big dicks or really athletic,
which I talk about all the time,
something like that, you have to look at the history of the stereotype. So the history of Jews, owning, I guess, owning a lot or being great at bankers, being great bankers and making a lot of money goes back to when Jews were really disenfranchised and they weren't allowed to own land. So they had to figure out other ways to make money, which turned into like peddling different things. And they were allowed to be bankers because they were great at like math, because they prioritized education and things like that. So it actually comes from like a really dark history. So I don't think what he was doing was trying to be anti-Semitic, but you do, just like with so many other different stereotypes, have to look at the history of it to have a full picture of it.
Yeah, it's like why do all Asians know the flute so well? It's like fucking like.
Well, yeah.
It's one of those things. Like they're good at. Oh, Asians, they're so good at math. It's like you're just pigeonholing an entire group of people.
Yeah.
And it's not the Jews who own everything. It's the goddamn Chinese and Arabs.
And so again, like with the same one when we talk about black people, like the roots of that are slavery. When you're talking about how they're like more virile or like how they could procreate and things like that. So it's like really negative stereotypes where it started, and we've turned it into a positive with society. And so you have to kind of look at that when you're.
And I think, and that's what the song is totally about. It's talking about all these different stereotypes that black people have to play into, and is there a way, like how do you be black in America? He's talking about the O.J. Simpson experience, and it's a really, like when you put it all together, the video, the lyrics, the song in general, it has a really clear, coherent artistic vision. So I have a feeling that this was intentional. Now, whether or not he had the nod to the history, like you were talking about, Hannah, I'm not sure. I really can't, and should never speak for Jay-Z. But I think that this song was absolutely a complete creative vision from beginning to end. He knew exactly what sort of a picture he wanted to paint, down to the video, really showing really clear depictions of its cartoon and it's very sort of minstrel in the way that the cartoons are depicted. And so it definitely is giving a nod to the black struggle. And I think that the lyrics play directly into that.
But what about the Jews?
I think he
like
references
is he like he has like this catch-all like, listen, I have thought through whatever your thought process is, and I hope you knowing me would say like that you would understand I probably thought that and accounted for that, and this is like a satirical, larger meta statement. But it's not in there, and then there is an extra amount of responsibility you have to decide as an artist whether you're going to take for your ambiguities. And in this, there is none of that is in here. All that stuff is about the different kinds of perceptions of African Americans and different African American archetypes, but they're all within the African American community. And he talks about how his choice is not to go play into the person who throws money away at the strip clubs, but rather to turn my artistic investments into from 1 million to 2 million to 8 million and such. And then goes and talks about the Jews as like, see, they're the rich people with all the money, which is something that Jews have had to fight against because that's why people hate Jews, whether it's right or wrong.
And the fact that he talks about like them owning all the land, I mean, those are some of the stereotypes that like Hitler used to really get people against Jews, talking about like, oh, they own all the land, they own all the money, we need to take them down and kill them. And then I don't think his intent was there. I agree with you, Grace, that I don't think his intent was to
don't think we should equate Hitler with
anti-Semitic. No, I'm not. But he's perpetuating this concept that people are really anti-Semitic and like dislike Jews because they have this sort of stereotype that they own all this land and they take all your money and blah, blah, blah. And that's something that Hitler used. And Jay-Z is saying something similar, even though he's trying to do so in a positive light. And I think what he was doing was positive intention there. But you have to look at the historical context. And unfortunately, that is the historical context behind that.
And he's an artist, he can do this, like he can. It's his choice as to how much responsibility he wants to take for having just a line in his song that says, I, Jay-Z, friend of the Jews, do state that Jews own everything.
Yeah, it was a necessary line. Do you know what I mean? Like you can say like, hey, don't blow all your money at strip clubs and I invested in art and made this much money. You can say all of that without doing like a little flip it like, oh yeah, Jews own all the things, so kind of copy what they do because they're stealing all our money essentially. It's just unnecessary.
It's weird also when Russell Simmons says the wasps didn't do anything to help us. Like the awkward it makes you feel when you hear stuff like that, the awkward it makes you feel when I'd say something like Asians are good at violin, like which is fucking makes you feel exactly the way you feel right now. That's the way it feels to hear like the Jews own everything, because we don't own everything, we just own most stuff through our Jew magic.